So I guess we can start off by introducing ourselves. You can go first.
I'm Savannah Almiron. I am 17 and I'm from Monrovia, California. And I mean, if we're going at grade level, I'm an incoming college freshman.
Oh, what college?
I'm going to Northeastern University.
Oh, congrats.
Thank you.
I guess I'll go. My name is Savannah Harriet. I am 16, actually. I'm going into junior year of my high school, and I'm from New York City. Uh, just to make it less awkward, I want to like share like a hobby. I like going to concerts. I love music, and I love TV shows. What about you?
Who do you like to listen to?
I like K-pop a lot. I'm not gonna
Oh,
lie. And I like Beyonce. I really want to go to her concert, but I can't. So it's
mm,
okay. What about you?
um, hobbies? Well, I do cheer, which is really
Oh,
fun. So I cheer. And then I like theater, so I do a little theater as well. The summer camp I'm working right now is like a kids camp that they're putting on a musical, so it's cool.
oh, that's cool. I've never been in a musical, but sounds like fun. Should we get straight into the questions then?
Sure.
Okay. What type of cancer did you have?
I had a stage 4 neuroblastoma.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I had stage 4 neuroblastoma. A little bit of an odd cancer for my age. Because neuroblastoma is usually found in babies. I was
Oh,
diagnosed at 14. So I had it at 14. I had a really big tumor growing on my adrenal gland. And like COVID kind of was the reason we found it because like I'm a person that's always doing something. Like I'm always doing something.
me too.
And when like I had to take a break for a second, like that's when like I took time to realize like, oh, like something's kind of wrong. And I had a 9-pound tumor going on my adrenal gland and I got it removed. And I at the time I was diagnosed as stage 3 neuroblastoma because it hadn't metastasized anywhere. It was just like in that one location. And then after that they're like, we're not gonna do any treatment because this cancer's kind of smart. And then they're like, we're just gonna wait. And I was doing like quarterly scans. And then in February of 2022, I went in for my quarterly scan and I relapsed in my like my abdomen and my neck area. And then from there, I went on to do like a lot more treatments.
So how was that process for you throughout the whole time?
It was interesting because I think from the beginning of my diagnosis, I was always a person. Like at first, I was kind of like, I struggled a lot at first, especially with the first time I was diagnosed because I didn't like to classify myself as like, oh, I'm a cancer survivor because like I had surgery. I was like, I feel like you have to have like a certain like go through certain things to be able to wear that badge of honor.
Mm.
And I felt like I really didn't at the time. So I really kind of was like, like whatever. Like I had a surgery, it happened to be cancer. And then I think when I went through the second time, it took me a while to realize like, no, like it was a lot. And um yeah, I think that I like a big part of myself, especially when I relapsed, was making sure that I didn't let it control my life. So I tried my best to stay in school. I relapsed my second semester of my junior year. So I missed a lot of my second of my I missed like the second half of my junior year. So I had to like go back to like kind of online schooling. And then during senior year I got to go back to school, but I was still in and out of school a lot. And I was like, but I was still doing all my activities. I was still in my musical my spring musical from last year. So I like really pushed to try to like make sure that like I didn't let it control me and I made that very known.
What were some challenges then?
I think especially going into my senior year, I saw a lot of people I felt like were going on and I was just kind of stuck.
Yeah.
Especially like you're going into senior year and my treatment plan actually changed going into my senior year. So a standard neuroblastoma like treatment plan consists of 5 rounds of chemotherapy, 2 rounds of high dose chemotherapy, so like stem cell transplants, radiation of some sort, and then like immunotherapy, and then like oral medication. In my surgery 2 years ago, I lost my kidney because like the surgeon, something happened in the surgery. They clipped my renal artery on accident and I lost my kidney. So during my 5 initial rounds of treatment of chemo, my kidney took a hard hit and they're like, oh, you can't do high dose chemotherapy. Like you can't do it. They're like, it won't be good for you. So I ended up going into a different treatment plan, which was easier and less aggressive, but I did more rounds of it. So
Okay.
I did more rounds of chemo immunotherapy and I got to go back to school though, which was really cool because I initially was going to be missing technically my entire first semester of senior year. And like I said, like I'm a cheerleader, I'm a senior, like I was going to get to miss homecoming, I wasn't going to get to do my senior night, I wasn't going to get to do any of that. So I think a really big challenge for me was realizing that I'm not going to get to do everything that everybody else got to do. And I really struggled with that. I was like, I'm going to miss my senior year. Like that sucks. But when my treatment plan changed, it was a lot better. I think what also was really challenging is like physically. Um, I was getting tired doing things that normally I wouldn't be getting tired doing, which was really frustrating. There would be times where I'd be like I said, at cheer, I would be doing like routine, and I would be dying after like an easy thing. And I'm like, why am I tired?
Yeah.
So I think that was a big challenge. Just like trying, it's so much more a mental battle than like a physical battle sometimes. Just like mentally trying to be like, well, you got to do this so that you can go do something else. So I got to go through this treatment to be able to go and live and do everything else I want to do after that.
Did you try to work your way around like school life, personal life around chemotherapy or
Yeah. So with I was doing chemo immunotherapy, so I would basically once a month for a week, I would be in the hospital. But what's really good about chemo immunotherapy is it's kind of the opposite of like regular, like more aggressive chemos, where with regular, more aggressive chemos, you kind of get chemo in the hospital and like you're like, oh, I feel good. And then you get out and a week later, you're like back in the hospital because you have a fever.
yeah.
But with chemo immunotherapy, you're more feeling everything in the hospital. So like I mean chemo always has lingering effects, but that goes away after like a few days. But with immunotherapy is it's actually the one that I was getting, it targets your nerves, so it likes to tickle your pain receptors,
Oh,
and you're on like like doses of medication just to like try to help you like with the pain. It kind of feels like, have you had COVID?
yes, it was so bad.
Did you have body aches?
Yeah.
That's what it feels like. It feels like that, just like all over.
Oh,
Um, so they give you a lot of medication to help with the pain. And so, but then the minute you're off of the medication and you're off the immunotherapy, you feel fine again.
oh, okay.
So, with that, I would kind of like miss a week of school and be out for like it was more like 2 weeks for me because I would still get home and be a little tired. So I would miss like 2 weeks of school and then go back into school for until I had to go to the next round. And I would just keep doing that. Like I would just keep going into school, coming back. Like it was a lot. And I sometimes I even look back at the things I was doing. I was like, why would I do that to myself? Like, but I did not. I worked around it. I always say that I think that cancer is a hobby, not a lifestyle.
Yeah, it's just something you have to work around, but I think it's something that's really impacting on your family, because my uncle had it too. So like
Mhm.
not the same cancer, but he had cancer, but he passed,
Yeah.
so I had to work around that. So that
Yeah.
being said, how did your cancer diagnosis affect your family?
Um, it I okay, so I come from like a lot a twist, well jumbled. I live with my mom and I see my dad all the time. And I also have a stepmom. So at least in my house, like alone, like with my mom quit her job because they were just like not really accommodating more so like that, like, oh, I have to go take my daughter here, take my daughter there. So I think it was really hard on my mom, especially like I'm my mom's like best friend, like only kid really. I am her only kid, but so I think that was a lot on her. um, my dad was a little bit better. My dad was more of my rock throughout it. Like he had his moments where like he would be like, oh, like emotional, but around me he would really try his best not to because he was more of like my support. So on him it was a lot too. I think there was a big effect on my siblings. My little sister is like one of the people I'm closest to. She took it really hard for a little while. I think she was scared. She shaved her head when I shaved my head. Yeah, yeah, she had like her my because we had a hashtag team Savs going on around for a while. She was like doing fundraisers, doing all this stuff for her. So I think, but it was really hard on all of them. Um, but I think once they realized, because like I feel like a lot of the time you associate cancer like, oh, you're gonna die, like, and I think that was really scary for them. But once they realized that I was still doing all of this stuff and I was still the same me, just with a little less hair, they were like, no, it's okay, like there's been instances too where like there'll be like kids at school and they're like, oh, like I think of somebody like at my sister's school was like, oh, like my whoever had cancer, and she's like, well, my sister has cancer and she's okay. And like just like I think it's a learning lesson for a lot of people, especially around you, going like around you to see how different people react to it. But I think overall at first it was really hard. I think it still does really affect a lot of them, but after a while you kind of just got used to it. Like and it felt a lot better.
So your family was someone like a guiding arm for you, like a way.
Yeah.
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 So do you have any advice for children going through cancer currently?
I think that a big one is don't let it control your life. Um, you kind of it's gonna suck. Like you take a pause. Like you're and people don't lie when they say that. Like oh, especially like if you're like of an older age.
Mhm.
Like I said, I was diagnosed at 14. Like if you're an older age, like that, those are like some developmental periods of your time, and like you're gonna have friends that won't be able to handle it, and that's not your fault, that's their own problem. Like I've lost a couple friends, some of my best friends, because of it. They went a little crazy, but you have to also realize people handle things in their own way. um so don't let it control your life and don't let it feel like you're the problem. Like you're only trying to get through it yourself, and you can't be there for every single person around you when you're trying to handle it yourself. And don't let other people tell you like you have to do this, you have to do that. A lot of times you're going to hear stories of people who had horrendous times. I went into my treatment with like people telling me like, oh, chemotherapy's awful, you're going to feel gross, you're going to feel bad. I did really well on chemo. And like there was times where like I felt so where you kind of it's like one of those moments where like you feel really gross and you feel like you're acting like you're like really feeling gross, and then you look back on it, you're like, why was I so dramatic? Like it was a dramatic moment, but like it's
Yeah.
something, it's not, it shouldn't, it doesn't have to be your life.
Yeah.
I still made sure I did everything I could. I find the people that you really stick to and will stick around for you. My best friend, my rock. She was there for me through everything. She always made sure I was okay. She watched out for me for everything. Like you're gonna find your people and do what you want. Don't let anybody tell you can't do otherwise. Can't do anything, because people are gonna tell you can't do it, and you can just do it. Like you're cool.
What
Yeah.
has something like a significant change that like you see in yourself now and prior to cancer?
Um, I think a big thing is, which is gonna sound stupid because you hear it everywhere,
Yeah.
but like you really do realize how how I'm not gonna say strong. I hate that word. I
Yeah.
hate when people are like, "Oh, you're so strong," because I'm like, I'm just trying to be like a normal person.
Yeah.
I'm like, why are you telling me strong when I'm doing an activity that I would always do? But you really realize your strengths. I think like you're like, okay, I did that. Like that feels good. Um, I think changes wise too, like losing my hair was I thought it was gonna be a really big deal. Like I really thought I was gonna be like, wow, this is horrendous. But it ended up not being that bad. And I think a lot of people struggle with that. Like I remember when I was even diagnosed with cancer, I was like, oh, so I'm gonna be bald. Like I was that was the most scary part for me. But then like I shaved my head. I think that now I'm in a little bit of an awkward phase going on. I think that physically you're gonna change a lot. That was the biggest change. Physically, I was like, okay, wow, this looks different. But you're gonna find ways to be yourself. Um, I think I realized that I wanted to go into nursing. I think a career path was a big one. I always was saying like, oh, I can never do that. My
Yeah.
share of like medical stuff was Grey's Anatomy. I was like, I can't ever do that. But no, like I after my first time around, I was like, oh yeah, like I want to do that, because it was like especially in the pediatric like world, like I think peds is really cool because like you have kids like that are like they're so little and they're going through this, but especially as a cancer survivor too, you can now like you can help understand them,
Mhm.
and you can like kind of be there for them and support them in ways that like you understand.
Yeah.
And that was a big change. I was like, no, I want to go into schooling now. I want to be a nurse. I want to be an oncology nurse. And like even then, like I met a nurse, one of my little besties. She I'm going to her alma mater. Like I'm going to her school, and she told me, she was like, you got this. Like I can't, like she told me, she's like, come back to this hospital, like I'll train you. Um but yeah, it's crazy. I think that there's a lot of changes that you realize. You change in your friendships, you change in your way you see life, the way you live your life every day. I was laughing today because there's a whole bunch of kids at my camp that are like they're like we were understaffed today.
Yeah.
And I was like, and somebody was like, I don't even know what tomorrow's gonna be like. I'm like, that's a tomorrow me problem. That's not a today me problem. And she was like, I wish I could think ahead. I could just think like that. And I was like, it's not a tomato, it's not my problem today. I was like, you just realize things aren't that big of a deal. Like they're really
Yeah.
not. But yeah, I think that there's a lot of changes that you go through. Some of them, like, I don't even think I've realized on the outside of it now. But yeah.
Um, Feel free to mention anything else that relates to your cancer journey.
Um, I feel like one thing is like I wouldn't be afraid to talk about it. I think for a long time I was really afraid. I didn't want, I waited till the last possible minute because we had a GoFundMe going around for a little while. I waited till the last possible minute to tell anybody. I relapsed in February, and I waited until I because of how the thing about neuroblastoma when you're a little older is it's in little kids, it's really fast growing. Like the minute you're diagnosed, it's usually stage 4 already. There, it's everywhere in their body. It's you have to attack it right away. When you're older, it's a little slower growing. So it may be in two places. And the only reason I had to go, it was named stage 4 was because I had it in two places. Um, but we had I had a little more lee room into when I started my treatment. So I relapsed in February, but I didn't start my treatment until the end of March. And I wait February, March. Yeah, March. And I waited until the day before I started chemo to even like say anything. My closest friends knew, and that was about it. Like my closest friends, my family knew, and I didn't tell anybody else before that. But when I finally said something, like you got a lot of support, and it's a lot of kind of like I'm not gonna say fake support, but you get a lot of the like, I'm here for you, but then nobody ever reaches that back out to you. And like you have those few, and those few that did like heart because like they really were there. But I forgot where I was going with this.
I do that too. It's okay.
I do that all the time. Um, but don't be afraid. But like I was afraid people would treat me differently. I was afraid like, oh, like there's Savvy, like the cancer kid. But I hope I was never the cancer kid. I made a joke out of being the cancer kid, which I feel like is really funny. Um, I don't, you can laugh about it. Like literally like you can make jokes. I was making a joke today
Yeah.
about it. Like you can people were like my mom is one of those people that's like, "Oh, don't make a joke about it," but like you're the
Yeah.
one going, "Yeah, I'm going to joke about it." Like my senior quote was literally cancer, I'm actually a Scorpio. Um
Um,
so
yeah.
yeah, so like you joke about it all you want. Like it's your trauma. But
Coping mechanism. Like I'll do it too sometimes. Like it's okay.
yeah.
The way you cope is different for everyone.
It's healthy coping. But yeah, don't be afraid. It's I think even like a lot of the times this year, like I was like I had a lot of moments where I was like, well, did I get that? Did I get this opportunity because I had cancer? Because you know I have cancer. I was on the homecoming court this year for school, and I was like, was I voted that because I have cancer? Because like people wanted to vote for me for that. Like it's a little bit of a mental battle because you start questioning whether or not you even want to talk about it. And I've been a person that I've been very vocal. I've been like, you have questions, ask me. Especially because like I had an incident last year at school where somebody didn't know the facts and they started going on and being like, oh, she's gonna die. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I was like, I'm okay. And I had to take to I had to like I went onto Instagram and I was like, guys, like just ask me, I'll answer questions. And yeah, like it was just a lot of there's misinformation, a lot of different stuff here all around. And I was really scared because of that. Like I was like, I didn't want to deal with that. But people really but you just have to you just gotta do it. Like it's your story, tell your story. Like you have to do that. And so you don't have to, but like it really helps. And it's cool sometimes when people like know you, especially with what you've gone through, and then they come seeking you for help. I had a teacher this year. His wife got diagnosed with breast cancer, and his wife was like everybody knew her, and he had told us, and he was like, "Can I talk to you?" And I got to talk to him, and it's just like when you get to put yourself out there a little bit, like you get to tell your story, and you get to raise advocacy for childhood cancer in general, because it's so not like out there.
Yeah.
And so that's also really important. So I think like you have a lot of fears, but it's important to put yourself out there and tell stories because especially if you're older. Because if I have a child with cancer, but the babies don't get to advocate for themselves.
Yeah.
And so you gotta be able you could be able to do that. And it's up to you. It's your decision at the end of the day. But I think it's really important to do that and get to advocate for the little ones.
I forgot to ask this question, but how long have you had cancer?
I was diagnosed in 2020 and I was I had treat I had can I was had surgery in June of 2020, which technically at the time also named me being cancer free because it was taken all at once.
Yeah.
Um, I was cancer free through February 2022, so 2 years later, and then I just was named in remission like 2 weeks ago.
Oh,
So I've had it for a little while.
okay. That sounds good. Thank you for meeting with me.
Of course, bye.
Bye.